Today, I'll be showing every Yoshi glitch in Super Mario 64, and so, let's jump on in. So, this is Yoshi. He's a friendly green dinosaur, and there's only one of him in the whole game here on the castle roof. But Yoshi isn't there right from the start. Instead, he only appears on the castle roof once you've collected all 120 stars. So you don't have to beat the final boss and beat the game to unlock Yoshi, just get all the stars. Once you do that, you can go outside and enter this cannon. Note that before you have all the stars, there are metal bars blocking this cannon, but now those are gone. So we can use the cannon to launch onto the castle roof, and up there we find 3 1-ups on the ground, a wing cap block, and Yoshi. Then we can go up to Yoshi, talk to him, and he says the following. Mario, is that really you? Note the typo there, it says it instead of is, but anyway. Mario, is that really you? It has been so long since our last adventure. They told me that I might see you if I waited here, but I'd just about given up hope. Is it true? Have you really beaten Bowser and restored the stars to the castle and saved the princess? I knew you could do it. But remember, we didn't actually beat the game yet and defeat Bowser and save Peach. All we did was get all the stars. But anyway, now I have a very special message for you. Thanks for playing Super Mario 64. This is the end of the game, but not the end of the fun. We want you to keep on playing, so we have a little something for you. We hope that you like it. Enjoy the Super Mario 64 team. And then Yoshi fills up your lives until you have 100. That's the maximum you can get. So basically, he maxes out your lives so that you can play around more easily without having to worry about getting a game over from running out of lives. Then after he finishes, he walks away, jumps into the waterfall, and disappears. And he won't reappear unless you reload the save file. But also after you talk to Yoshi, he gives you the special triple jump. See, here's the normal triple jump that you have throughout most of the game. But after you talk to Yoshi, you get the special triple jump, which has sparkles and does a little extra bounce at the end. But also, the normal triple jump lets you wall kick off of walls, whereas the special triple jump doesn't let you wall kick, so in some sense it's worse than the normal triple jump. Now remember, before you get all 120 stars, the cannon has metal bars on it, preventing you from using it. But there are some alternative ways to get onto the castle roof. For example, we can do a triple jump on this hill to the right of the castle to get up. If you're really skilled, you can climb up the left side using some jumps and kicks, though this one is much harder to pull off. Look at that, one slip up and I slide all the way down, but I did make it. If you want style points, we can backwards long jump on this steep slope to go fast enough to get onto the castle roof with a single jump. We can even go near the waterfall and then do some hyperspeed walking to build up speed. As you may remember, this is the same technique that we used to build up speed during Watch for Rolling Rocks. It's pretty precise to maintain it at first, but eventually Mario starts pushing against out of bounds, which makes it stable. Then after some time, we can use that speed to launch into the cannon even though the metal bars are still there. And from there, we can launch as normal onto the roof. But even if you get onto the roof prematurely using these tricks, Yoshi won't be there. He's only there after you get all the stars. Interestingly, we can even get up to Yoshi in 0 A presses. To do that, we hyperspeed walk next to the waterfall, same as before, and I won't even have to fast forward this time because we can do it so quick. Then once we have enough speed, we launch over here and start punching to decrease our speed. Now once our speed reaches just the right amount, we can launch up the hill and make it onto the castle roof. So yeah, getting up to Yoshi is in fact doable in 0 A presses. But of course, we still had to press A to unlock him in the first place from getting all the stars. Shout out to Tyler Caney for being the first person to figure out that strat all the way back in 2018. Now I should note, talking to Yoshi is literally the only interaction we can do with him. We can't push him, we can't attack him, we can't jump on top of him. Instead, all we can do is talk. But even talking to him doesn't always go so well because sometimes you might end up punching first instead. So what causes that to happen? Well, to initiate talking to Yoshi or any NPC, Mario has to either be in an idle action like standing still or in the walking action. No other action works. So I can talk to Yoshi while standing still, and I can talk to Yoshi while walking. But Mario does some other actions too, even if all you do is hold forwards and then stop holding forwards. For example, if you hold forwards and then stop holding forwards abruptly, Mario will go into the braking action, then the stop braking action, and only then back to the standing action. And those other actions don't allow you to talk during them. So look, if I walk up to Yoshi, stop holding forwards, and then press B, Mario punches since he was in the braking action. Even if I come to a complete stop, pressing B still punches since this time Mario's in the stop braking action. So if you want it to work, you have to wait even longer until Mario goes back to standing, and only then can you talk. Similarly, if you come to a more gradual stop, Mario goes into the slowing down action, and that one also doesn't allow you to talk. So if I walk up to Yoshi and come to a gradual stop, pressing B still punches. So yeah, those all feel like they should work, but they don't, which is why talking to NPCs in this game doesn't always go so smoothly. Now when you do talk to Yoshi, it plays the jingle that you did something right. Listen. But interestingly, this jingle doesn't just play once, it's actually programmed to play on every frame that Yoshi turns towards Mario. So often it sounds like this, where it hangs on the first note while Yoshi turns. If we talk to Yoshi from behind, we can get a really long hang. And if we talk to Yoshi from the exact front angle, we can avoid hearing the jingle at all, because Yoshi doesn't spend any frames turning, he's already facing Mario. Now remember, when you talk to Yoshi, he fills up your lives until you have 100, which does take some time. So if we want to make it easier on Yoshi, we can first collect lives over and over until we already have 100. An easy way to do that is to touch the 4 corners of this shallow water, which spawns a 1-up for us to collect. Then we can exit the castle and re-enter it, which causes the 1-up to reappear so we can collect it multiple times. Now when we talk to him, he finishes giving us lives instantly because our lives were already maxed out. You know, I actually tested this back when I was a kid because I wanted to see what would happen. Would he have different dialogue, apologizing for having nothing to give us? But nope, he still promises us a little something, but then just gives us nothing. But I can also use this to engineer the shortest possible interaction with Yoshi. Watch, I talk to him from exactly the front so he doesn't need to turn towards me. I'm on the Japanese version, which has less dialogue, and I advance each dialogue on the exact first frame. Yoshi finishes giving me lives instantly since I already have 100, and he jumps instantly because he's already in the spot to jump from. So there you go, that's the world record for the shortest possible Yoshi interaction. Look at that, just beautiful. On the other hand, if we want to make Yoshi's life harder, we can kill Mario to decrease our lives down to 0. Now when we talk to him, it takes a while to fill up our lives. But actually, we can do better than that, because on the Japanese version of the game, there's a way to get negative lives. Specifically, we can collect unlimited coins like during a Bowser fight, then once we reach 1,000 coins, it triggers a bug that gives us negative 25 lives. And from there, we can keep dying to lose lives until we have negative 128 lives. That's the minimum you can get, because losing any more would actually overflow the life counter and cause it to wrap around back to positive 100, so we won't do that. So now when we talk to Yoshi, he has to fill up our lives all the way from negative 128 to positive 100. That's the biggest range he can cover. By the way, remember how in Yoshi's dialogue he gives a message from the Super Mario 64 team? In that message from the developers, they specifically say, "We want you to keep on playing." Well, for me, Pan and Koic, I feel like I've taken that message way too literally. It's been 30 years and somehow I'm still making the most out of this old game. So I find it funny how even the programmers seem to know that this game had untold potential for fun. But anyway, that's what it looks like for Yoshi to give you 228 lives at once, the biggest finite amount. And I say finite because there's also an infinite version we can do. You see, we can collect 1,000 coins like before, which gives us negative 25 lives. But now instead of dying, we exit out. That actually doesn't reset our coin count, so at this moment in the hub world, we technically still have 1,000 coins, even though it doesn't show it. And that means on every frame, our lives are being set to negative 25. So now when we talk to Yoshi, it actually soft locks the game. Like he's trying to fill up our lives to 100, but our lives are being set to -25 every frame, which overrides it. So we never make progress towards 100, and so we're just stuck here forever. Separately, note that Yoshi also appears on the castle roof during the ending scene, assuming you got all 120 stars. Look, you can see him right there on the top left. He actually goes into a special action just for this, where he stays idle in that exact spot. And then later in the sequence, when Mario and Peach are waving goodbye, you can also see him on the top left. So I feel like they put him there as a hint to the player that you should go up there and check it out. Now here you can see Yoshi's actions in the code. We have actions for standing, walking, talking, etc. Now if we look at the number value assigned to each of these actions, we can see that it goes 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10. See, it jumps straight from 5 to 10 when we get to the credits action. So to me, that feels like there used to be some other actions in here for values 6, 7, 8, and 9, and they got removed later in development. Who knows what those actions would have been? Maybe they planned for you to be able to ride on top of Yoshi. I mean, he does look very rideable the way he's slouched forward, especially compared to future versions of his model where he's more upright. Also in the game's code, there's an unused graphic for a Yoshi egg. It doesn't have any behavior, so I guess we'll never know what it was intended to be used for, but it is in there. Now something else I find notable, you can hear Yoshi's footsteps from anywhere outside, even all the way over here. Listen. Now other objects make sound too, like a Bob-omb Buddy's footsteps, but in this case, if you go far away, the sound stops. That's because Bob-omb Buddies become inactive when Mario goes far away, and object sounds are only programmed to play when the object is active. But Yoshi is active no matter where you are outside. He doesn't disappear when you're far away from him. So that's why the sound of Yoshi's footsteps can be heard from anywhere. Now let's talk about how Yoshi moves around. You see, there are 4 different spots on the ground that Yoshi will target. In order, we'll call them spots A, B, C, and D. So he randomly picks one, walks to it, stops for a bit, then picks another, and the whole process repeats forever. Now when Yoshi's walking towards a spot, he stops moving once he's within 200 units of it. So he doesn't end up exactly at his target spot, just roughly at it, as shown by the blue circles. And I'll also highlight which spot he's currently targeting. So right now he's targeting spot C, so he walks to that blue circle and stops. Then after some waiting, he randomly chooses spot D next and walks over to that blue circle. So yeah, I think you get the idea. So if we map out Yoshi's pathing over time, it looks like this. Lots of lines going from spot to spot, so it makes kind of an interesting pattern. And note that after you talk to Yoshi, he walks specifically to spot B and then does his jump into the waterfall. So if you happen to talk to Yoshi when he's already at spot B, he'll jump away instantly without having to walk to it. Now the code that Yoshi uses to choose his new spot is kind of interesting. It calculates the new spot by doing a random float times 3.99 and then truncating it to get the index of the new spot. But instead of multiplying by 3.99, they should have just multiplied by 4. Let me explain. So consider a number line. When they call the function to generate a random float, it produces a number between 0 and 1. So on our number line, it would be a value in this range, where 0 is inclusive and 1 is exclusive. Now they should have just multiplied it by 4. Then the range would go from 0 to 4, where once again, the 0 is inclusive and the 4 is exclusive. Then if we truncate the numbers, we end up with 4 equally likely outcomes, corresponding to the spots A, B, C, and D. But remember, they didn't multiply by 4 because they were worried about the possibility of the number ending up exactly at 4. Because then if we truncate, we end up with one possibility at 4, which isn't a valid index for the spots. That's what they were worried about. But like I said, the end of the range is exclusive, so that wouldn't have happened. But whoever wrote this code wanted to be extra sure it wouldn't happen, so they only multiplied by 3.99. What that does is remove this little tip of the range. So in practice, when we truncate, it ends up like this. Spot D ends up with a slightly smaller chance than the others. And so, if we look at the percentage chance that Yoshi goes to each point, we see that spot D has just a slightly smaller chance of being picked than the others. I find that so silly. Now there's something else interesting about the code that chooses Yoshi's new spot. If the code ends up picking the spot that Yoshi's already at, then it just does an early return, meaning no more Yoshi code happens that frame. Like you'd think they'd resolve the new spot right away on this frame, but no, they defer the future frames to try again to select a new spot. Let me illustrate this. Let's say Yoshi's at spot C. If the code were programmed ideally, then Yoshi would choose one of the other 3 spots, each with a chance of 1/3. That's easily doable with some smart code, but that's not what Yoshi does. Instead, he picks one of the 4 spots, each with a chance of 1/4. So that means there's a 1/4 chance that Yoshi picks the spot he's already at and then does nothing that frame. And then on the next frame, there's a 1/4 chance that it happens again. So that means it's theoretically possible that Yoshi just keeps choosing the spot he's already at and never moves. So let's see this in the game. Here I'm showing Yoshi's action above his head. So we have green for walking, pink for waiting, and deep red for the special early return waiting. So right there you saw the red text for a split second because Yoshi did the early return waiting for 1 frame. And right here it happens for multiple frames in a row. But most of the time, Yoshi doesn't do any frames of special waiting because he chooses a spot that's not the one he's at. For example, on this next one, he goes straight from waiting to walking with no flickering of red text during the transition. Now remember, I said no Yoshi code happens during the special waiting because it just returns early, and that includes the code for handling the dialogue. And so, if you happen to talk to Yoshi while he's doing the special waiting, you'll end up having to wait a few extra frames until Yoshi turns to talk to you. See, I press B to talk right now, but then I have to wait a few extra frames because Yoshi keeps picking the spot he's already at. But once he chooses a different spot, then he's done with the special waiting and only then does he turn to talk to me. And so amazingly, that means there's a theoretical soft lock that could happen. If Yoshi just kept picking the same spot forever, then Mario would have to wait there forever. Of course, you'd need so much good RNG for that to happen. So much that the RNG value wraps around and goes into a repeating loop. Someone go make it happen. That's the newest open challenge in Super Mario 64, softlock on Yoshi just by regularly talking to him. Now Yoshi's pathing does have a few anomalies. For example, sometimes Yoshi walks close enough to this wall and so he gets a little push from it. Here's what that looks like with the wall hitboxes shown. The wall hitboxes push him out when he goes into them. But you may notice that Yoshi's actually able to go slightly inside of that first wall hitbox before it pushes him out. That's due to a very obscure quirk of the SM64 engine. You see, every course is actually subdivided into cells, and you can only interact with the triangle hitboxes that are in your current cell. So in this case, the wall triangle is in the left cell, but Yoshi is in the right cell. So he doesn't interact with the wall hitbox until he moves far enough left to be in the same cell as the wall triangle. And here's an example of him skipping over that first wall hitbox and getting an extra big push from the second wall. Separately, sometimes Yoshi will walk along the wall, which causes him to walk at double speed. Of course, that's not unique to Yoshi, as many objects walk faster along walls, like bob-ombs and coins too. Look, I'm about to get the coin, but then it touches the wall and speeds away. But let me explain why this happens with Yoshi. So let's pause it and zoom in. So on every frame, Yoshi does a wall check and then does his regular movement. But oddly enough, the wall check applies to where Yoshi's about to move to instead of his current position. So let's watch this play out. So first, Yoshi checks for walls in front of him where he's about to move to, but there's no walls there, so nothing comes of that. Then second, he does his regular movement, so he moves forwards at his normal speed. Then this continues. He checks for a wall, there's no wall, then he moves, checks for a wall, there's no wall, then he moves. But then on this frame, he checks for a wall, there is a wall there, so he gets pushed out of it, and then he does his regular movement, which moves him forwards. So he essentially moved forwards twice that frame, both from the wall check and his regular movement. And that just keeps happening. So on these frames, both the white arrows and yellow arrows are contributing to his forward movement, which makes him walk at double speed. Whereas before, it was only the yellow arrows, so it was normal speed. Now there's one other big anomaly in Yoshi's movement. Sometimes he walks so close to the steep part of the roof that he goes onto it for a second. Now by itself, that doesn't seem like too much, he just tilts a bit sideways. But here's the thing, that little moment on the steep part alters his pathing by just enough to make him miss his next intended spot. So he ends up walking beyond the spot and ultimately walks off of the castle roof. Now the programmers must have anticipated that this might happen because they programmed it so that if Yoshi goes too low down, he unloads and respawns back in his normal spot. So if you weren't watching him right at that moment, you wouldn't even know that anything happened. Also, if you're near his respawning spot when he falls off, he won't respawn yet. It specifically waits until you're far enough away before respawning him. Of course, that's not too surprising because Yoshi uses the same respawning logic that Bob-ombs and Cork Boxes use, and those also require you to be far away before they'll respawn. But you may be asking, why would going onto the steep part mess up his pathing? Well, you see, Yoshi has a facing angle, which I'll make yellow, and he has a target angle, which I'll make green. For convenience, I'll also add a green line showing what the target angle would look like if it were extended forwards. So Yoshi walks to his intended spot and then stops. Then once he's ready to start walking again, he calculates the angle to his next intended spot and sets his target angle equal to that. Now at this moment, the target angle is aimed right at the center of the intended spot. But that doesn't last for long because the target angle is only set right when the new spot is calculated and then doesn't update as Yoshi moves. So look what happens as Yoshi turns. By the time he turns around to face the target angle, he's no longer aimed right towards the center of the intended spot. Instead, he's aimed towards the side of the spot, which most of the time is still good enough to reach the blue circle and come to a stop. And I say most of the time because as we saw, it does fail when Yoshi walks onto the steep part of the roof. And that's because when Yoshi goes onto the steep part, his movement logic tries to make him face downhill. This tendency to move downhill is more apparent in other objects that use the same code. For example, if we throw a cork box onto a steep hill, its movement direction tends towards going straight downhill. Bob-ombs also use the same code. So a bob-omb on a steep hill will also tend to walk downhill, which competes with its urge to walk towards its home. Now, here's what Yoshi would do on a steep hill if we remove his logic to turn towards his target angle every frame. Once he goes onto the steep part, he ends up walking straight downhill. So in practice, when Yoshi walks onto the steep part, the urge to go downhill interferes with his turning towards his target angle. Specifically, it slows down his turning just enough to make him miss the blue circle around his intended spot. In fact, let me show this in more detail. So on this frame, Yoshi turns his target angle back towards the faraway spot. Then on each frame, he moves forwards and then turns a little towards his target angle. You see? Move then turn, move then turn. And he does that repeatedly until he goes onto the steep part, because then there's an extra step each frame. Now he turns downhill, then he moves, then he turns towards his target angle. And that just keeps repeating. So I'm highlighting each turn downhill in red and each turn towards his target angle in green. And so you can see that each red turn takes away from the following green turn. So he ends up turning a lot slower than normal, and that ultimately causes him to miss the blue circle around his intended spot. Look at that, he's trying so hard to turn towards his target angle, but each red turn is sabotaging his progress. Now eventually, he does reach the target angle, but by then his path forward no longer intersects with the blue circle. Now I wanted to find out how long it takes for Yoshi to fall off the roof naturally. So I ran thousands of simulations, and I found that the median time it takes is 40 minutes. So half the time it's shorter than 40 minutes, and half the time it's longer, potentially going up to multiple hours. Now here you can see the shortest pathing that does it, which only takes 30 seconds. Yoshi goes from A to B, then B to D, then D to A, then A to B, and then finally B to A. So yeah, every successful sequence that does it always ends with A, B, A. That's the only way for it to happen. Now if you're trying to get it to happen on console, you'll just be waiting there a while. I mean, sure you can make dust to affect RNG and influence Yoshi's pathing, but you can't revert backwards to try again if he goes the wrong way. You're stuck with whatever he does, so you just have to hope he does the right sequence. But on emulator, we can keep reverting to try again until Yoshi goes the exact way we want. And I found that if we just keep making Yoshi alternate back and forth between spots A and B, he tends to walk onto the steep part eventually. Now we can actually talk to Yoshi right when he falls off the roof, meaning we talk to him while he's in the air. Then once he finishes filling up our lives, he falls down and gets stuck down there, like he's trying to walk towards towards the spot where he jumps from, but he'll never reach it from down there, so it's a soft lock. He's just trapped there in the corner. Similarly, we can talk to Yoshi right when he walks onto the steep part of the roof. So after we finish talking to him, the steep part messes up his pathing as he turns towards the spot to jump from. So he misses spot B and instead continues walking. Eventually, he reaches the end of the roof and falls off. In this case, he falls into the water and then gets trapped in the corner. And you can even see that he makes bubbles in the water. Here I talk to him again on the steep part, but slightly differently. This time, after we let him go, he falls off in a slightly different way. Specifically, he skips over the water area that he fell into before and instead ends up in the drained moat. So you can see that he's pushing up against the walls in the moat and eventually he gets stuck in the corner. And here's another where I talk to him while he's on the other steep part of the roof. This time, after we let him go, he ends up going a completely different direction than before. He walks through this intangible part of the roof and then falls off into the waterfall. You know, normally in his behavior, he jumps into the waterfall and then just disappears. So this must be like a dream come true for him. He finally gets to experience the waterfall firsthand. But like usual, he still gets stuck in a corner. We can also achieve the same thing a different way, not by using the steep part of the roof, but by using the wall hitbox. Because this time, Yoshi walks into the wall hitbox and gets pushed sideways during his U-turn, causing him to just barely miss the spot to jump from. So he continues along, walks down the roof, and this time he actually bumps up against out of bounds over and over, causing him to do some funny movement. So after a lot of that, he ends up walking off the roof, going into the waterfall again. But it is a little different this time, because instead of getting stuck in the corner, he ends up getting stuck right there, wherever that is. There's also a theoretical soft lock if you talk to Yoshi on the frame that he unloads from walking off the roof. It's not possible in the vanilla game because Yoshi's too low down to talk to right when he disappears. But here I've hacked in a block to stand on so I can show you what would happen. Mario enters the dialogue action, but Yoshi's not there, so it would be yet another soft lock. And finally, it's also possible to talk to Yoshi while Mario's in the air. Look, I'm just standing here in midair while Yoshi gives me lives. And we also get a funky camera angle, because when Mario's in a grounded action, the camera stays near the floor under him. And in this case, we're standing in the air, so the camera has to stay way far down at the ground below us. Now Yoshi finished, so he goes to his spot, jumps and disappears. And then when we get control of Mario back, he just falls down to the ground. And so there you have it. That's every Yoshi glitch in the game. Hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching. And now for this video's member event. In case you don't know, at the end of all my regular videos, all the members of my channel participate in a member event. And this time, I've made you guys all into Yoshi. That's right, we're having a Yoshi Battle Royale. And not in the arena like usual, but instead on top of the castle roof. Because where else would be more fitting for Yoshi? Now if you fall off of the roof, you die. But also, each Yoshi has the ability to jump, and if you jump on top of another player, they'll get squished and die. So yeah, your goal is to jump on the other players and avoid falling off the roof. And so if everybody's ready, let's begin! And there they go. It's about to get very chaotic, as hundreds of people already died in the first few seconds. We've already lost Taffyco, PJ Sands, Nico Donoff, Izzy, Cubic, Liam Bunnabun, JR, Chromosomnio, Mr. Sir, Luis Cabral, Biggs22, Lugmalord, Asucho, HK Jacket, Squarg, Lil Gamers, Zeshi, Hugbees, Bupwillow, Kidley Stoop, NXT, The Flying Fire, Morphstar Changeling, Sakagura Synth, Hot Joe, The Bros, Nana Nitro, Conair, Eric Vilas, Joe Smellmore, Toshigun1337, Muffin, Mia, Laura, Nino Causa, Phanton, Dot Matrix, and Wormy. And so after all that commotion, we're now down to the last 20 players. Quick, look on the bottom left, we just had a double squish. And now we're down to 12 players. It's going way too fast, but I have a feeling it's about to slow down now that it's getting way more precise to jump on top of a player. Like in the beginning, every inch of floor was covered with Yoshis, so if you jumped, you were kinda guaranteed to land on someone. But now you actually have to aim. Over here, it looks like Aubergine111 is trying to jump onto Fish Knight. Oh, and they actually managed to get it. Now the players are having a lot of trouble hitting hitting each other, they just keep missing. But check out Game Dev Fox, the orange Yoshi on the top right. He just got squished by Nathaniel Ming Him, the purple Yoshi. And now it looks like we're having a mass migration of Yoshis to the front left corner of the castle. Look at the yellow Yoshi, heightened by 95, just walked dangerously close to the edge. Looks like we have some squishes and some falling off. So after that clash in the corner, only Aubergine 111 came out of it unscathed. But it looks like they're out for vengeance because they just stomped on D Merca GU10. So now we're down to the final three, Aubergine 111, Nathaniel Mingham, and Crystal's Hideout. But Aubergine just got squished by Nathaniel, so now we're down to the last two. What's gonna happen? Crystal just went for it, but she jumped too far. But she's going back, and she bounced on Nathaniel. Not even from a jump, just from bouncing while walking downhill. And that's it. Crystal's Hideout is the only Yoshi remaining on the castle. So, congrats to our first place finisher, Crystal's Hideout. And everyone else will be ranked by how long they lasted before dying. So yeah, that's what a member event is like. So if you want to get in on the next one and support me, consider becoming a member of my channel. Anyway, I hope you liked the video. I don't think anybody knew that Yoshi had this many glitches, but that's my job now, to go through every topic in the game and document everything about it. And for this video, I deliberately chose to do Yoshi because he has relatively simple behavior compared to other objects like Chucky or Scuttlebugs. Like, the simpler the object, the shorter the video. So I'm gonna try to front load lots of simpler objects so that I can pump out a bunch of videos for you guys. I don't want to disappear again for several months like I did with the invisible wall video or the one button challenge. For now, I'm trying to go easy on myself and give you guys more frequent uploads. So don't get the wrong impression. I'm not out of ideas and resorting to obscure topics like every Yoshi glitch. It's more like there's dozens of videos I have to make and I'm getting into the groove of things by starting with the easier ones. I'll get to the harder ones eventually when I'm ready for them. After all, my goal is to cover everything, so it doesn't really matter what order I tackle things in. Like, you might think I'd want to start with the most important or pressing or biggest videos, but no, it's more like I just do whatever video I feel like each time. I found that that's the best way to go about things. Just work on whatever project I'm currently in the mood for, because if I'm not interested in it, working on it costs way more mental energy. But if I am interested, then it's cheap and fun to work on, so that's a more efficient strategy in the long run. But anyway, I'm glad that these days I'm able to post shorter, more niche videos like every Yoshi glitch. It was only a couple years ago that I returned to making commentated videos on my main channel, and back then I was so in my head about wanting to only make the best videos ever, only magnum opuses. But nowadays I'm feeling confident enough to post these smaller videos. But even for these smaller videos, I still put my whole heart and soul into them. I mean, I'm only covering each subject once, so I want each video to be the best it can be. It's as if I'm making a Wikipedia of every glitch, but I only get one shot at each article and then it's stuck that way forever. I can never change it, so that's why I like to be as thorough and in-depth as I can be. I only get one shot at each video, so I have to make it perfect. So yeah, that's what's been going on with me. I'm documenting every glitch in Super Mario 64. No matter how big or small, I'm coming for them all. I'm so happy I get to do this with my life. And it's all thanks to you, all of you guys. Even the Super Mario 64 team, who specifically said they want us to keep on playing this game. Thanks to all of you, you've given me the life I've always wanted. Oh, and another life. And another one. Wait a second. I might be here a while. But hey, as long as it's Super Mario 64, there's nothing else I'd rather be doing. See you next time.